So thank you so much for the beautiful introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here with you all. And I know that you've done late nights, no sleep, printing out these portfolios, working on your LinkedIns, right? It's been hard work. So now is the moment to take a step back. We're going to talk about some career stuff, a review of some of the things that you already know, but I want to take a step back and look at what the future is going to hold for you. So the first thing that I have is the new rules we have here. Not Dua Lipa's new rules, although I really like those new rules. These are the career rules. These are the 5 career rules that no one tells you, or you need to hear them again. I'm sure your teacher might have told you some of these things, but you likely need to hear them again. So we're going to go on this journey with each other together today. So why should you listen to me? You heard a little bit about me, but I'm a fractional chief marketing officer. That means that I ran marketing for large companies. I've had over 100 people report to me and different teams. I've done a lot of hiring. I've seen a lot of resumes. I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, and I've worked in fashion. I've worked in branding. I've worked in many different industries throughout my career. But what I'm most passionate about is being an educator and a mentor. That's truly what drives me, what gets me excited, and I genuinely love people, and I'm so excited to help you maybe just a little bit get that leg up as you start your career. Here are some of the brands that I've worked for. You may notice a few. I only share this to say, done quite a few things in my career. So I've been in your shoes as a graduate, and then I've gone on to do a lot of cool things. I've worked in magazines. You'll see, famous hotels here. You'll see famous fashion designers here. You'll see many different types of companies. I've worked with car companies. So I've worked in many different industries, and the fashion industry has a very special place in my heart. It's something that I've been passionate about since I was really little. So it's not going to be easy to build a career, right? Hopefully some of you have already started to get internships, start applying for jobs, and maybe you're saying, wait, I've started to apply for a few jobs and I'm not getting anything. It's not going to be easy. And I want to make sure that people aren't telling you that it is, because that's not the truth. But being intentional about your career is incredibly worth it. And I'm going to share some cheat codes, okay? Are you excited about the cheat codes? You want the new rules? All right, awesome. So number 1, landing a job is a skill. Now, I don't mean you have to have skills, right? I think you all know you need to have skills, but the actual process of getting a job is a skill itself, right? It's not the same as just being good at your job. You can be really great at what you do. You could be the best designer. That doesn't mean you're going to get a job. You have to learn the rules of the game. And so I actually travel and I speak to universities all over, and I share these top 10 tips, okay? And these tips are the things that we all know we need, the elements, but I'm gonna go through them because sometimes we just need to hear them again, right? The first one is to get experience, and all of you have experience, right? Because school is part of experience, you're getting internships, that's the first thing that you need to do, and all of you are well on your way. The next is social media. And when I say social media, I also mean what you put on social media is what is important as you don't put on social media. I'm sure you've heard from your family members, from the people in your life, that what you put on the internet stays on the internet, and I'm here to double down on that. Really be intentional about how you show up on social media. So the first thing you do, clean up your digital footprint. I'm sure you've all done this already. I'm sure no one has anything on the internet anywhere that they wouldn't want me to see right now, right? So be very, very conscious about what you put on the internet, but then you're going to use LinkedIn, you're going to use social media in your favor to create a great social media presence. All right, we're all good on this, right? No weird stuff on the internet, because it's going to stay and job hiring managers are going to find it. So perfect. Moving on. We have your resume. All of you have resumes. I saw them around the room. They looked fantastic. So you've already proofread them. I'm sure there's no typos in this room. If I know anything about Oscar, is that he's really prepared you here. But it's always good as you update your resume, make sure more people are looking at it, make sure that it's applicant tracking system, ATS system approved, make sure that you are getting more feedback on your resume as you continue on your career, right? Because resume doesn't end here. Sometimes we forget to update our resume. Make sure you update your resume at least every year, even if you're staying in a job long term. It's a lot easier to do it once a year, just like set it on your calendar and say, oh, it's time to update my resume. And then you'll be able to come back and revisit it. It'll be so much easier than, uh-oh, I need a resume for tomorrow and you're not prepared, right? So keep your resume up to date. Next, we have cover letter. I always like to say what a cover letter is. I'm sure you've heard about them, but the reason we have cover letters is because back in the day, we used to mail and fax things. Does anybody know what a fax machine is here? So the cover letter was because when we would send it through the fax, it would just be our resume, right? But then we wouldn't know who it would go to. So there used to have to be a cover on top of it, the second piece of paper, to say who it was directed to. But the cover letter is actually an opportunity outside of just your resume to say why you really want that specific job, right? Your resume has your highlights, it has everything you've accomplished, because a great resume is about your accomplishments, not just your job title, right? There's a difference, what you actually accomplish. But the cover letter makes it personal to that person that you're reaching out to. All right, cover letters, we're good. Now, you're gonna have to apply and apply and apply again. How many jobs do you think it would take to apply to get a job? Any ideas?
100.
Yes, maybe more now. A lot of the times when I speak with students, they'll say like 5, 10, 1. Yeah, especially in the world of AI, in the digital world where we're applying online. I applied to 100 jobs 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe longer than that. And I heard back from 3. I got the interview with 2, and I got none of those jobs in 1 month, okay? It's just part of the game. So I teach you this to say you have to have thick skin. We're in a digital world. A lot of the times, a human's not even looking at your resume. So you want to be able to find alternative ways to network in, because I was able to get a job in that instance through an old boss of mine because I had my network, which is perfectly the next tip, right? So tip number 6 is to use your network. Now, a lot of us feel like, well, I don't really have a network. Anybody feel like maybe you don't really have that big of a network yet because you're just starting out? Wrong. Every person in this room is part of your network. Your network is what you create. And network also has a lot to do with the students sitting next to you. Your peers are also part of your network. Your professors are part of your network. All of the people you meet today are part of your network. If you work the network, you have to work the network, right? Now, that doesn't have to be insincere. It just means keeping in touch, keeping up with people. And as you go onto your career, it's going to feel a little weird to you think of your professor, you just got this new job, and you're like, oh, they probably don't remember me or something like that. Or you're just busy, excited about your new job. But take the time to send the text, to send the email, just so that you're top of mind, and also you get to celebrate your wins. It's really important to not just reach out to your network when you need something, but reach out to offer a hand to help, reach out to celebrate something, and just reach out to keep in touch. That's how the network works, right? Okay? So everyone has a network, and that's super important that you've already started. I don't want you to feel like you're behind, that you don't have a big network. There's a lot of people in this room. You have a network right here that will support you. Networking is super important. Okay, then we know we're going to research the company, right? Now we've got an interview. We're going to research the company. But one thing a lot of people forget is you want to research about the person you're going to interview with, right? You're ready for your internship. They know a lot about you. They have your resume. Don't you want to know about them? So one of my favorite ways to figure out who I'm going to be interviewing with is I look them up on LinkedIn. And then I take notes about them because I'm trying to get a picture of who they are, because I want to know if I want to work there too. So make sure that you're researching not just the company, not the regular things that you would think of, what's this job all about, but research who you're going to be interviewing with. Number 8 is to perfect the practice interview. Like I said, the rule that we're talking about is landing a job is a skill. Interviewing is a skill. I know that many of us are kind of extroverted, like I'm pretty extroverted. I think I'm great at interviews. I think I'm great at talking to people. But every once in a while, especially when I care about something and I'm starting an interview, I might get nervous too. So we have to be prepared. And the only way to be prepared is to practice. So I always say, find a friend, go back and forth, do a mock interview, ask my friend ChatGPT to interview you and say, what are the questions they're gonna ask? What should I say? Help critique my answer to this. Write it out. When I go to interviews, I talk to myself like in the car as I'm driving there, like a crazy person. People must think I'm on the phone, I hope. But I practice all the time. I practice in front of the mirror. Sometimes I record myself. So this is super important to not just think I know my stuff, feel overly confident, like take the time to actually practice, okay? That's how you're gonna get better. And then the interview shows up, it's showtime, right? You're gonna interview with intention. You're gonna be very prepared for your interview. You're gonna rock it. You're gonna knock it out of the park. They're gonna be like, oh, how do I get this person to work for me? They're amazing, right? Well, there's one last thing that you have to do, and this is the most important thing that you have to do in the entire presentation that I do about careers, which is you need to follow up. You need to follow through. I speak with students. I speak with a room full of 100 kids, let's say, in high school or in university students. And I say, who's going to email me if you want me to look at your resume? And most people will put their hands up. And then I say, who's really going to do it? And there's probably maybe like 20 hands, right? They're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know about this lady, and I'm kind of busy. How many do you think actually email me? How many? 5, 2, 1, or 0. Usually high school is 0. And this is people who are really interested, right? And so it may be because they're nervous and they don't know what to say. I find that a lot. Or they don't really know how to, or they just forget, or they think I'm not going to respond. But I say this to say it's not hard to be the 1%. It's not hard to literally be the one person who reaches out. If you have an interview and someone takes the time to meet you, respect them enough to send them a thank you note. And it used to be like an absolute must. Like we would never even think of meeting with someone without sending a thank you note. Like this is a crazy idea. We actually used to have to handwrite them. That's a whole nother story. But we would never even think about not sending someone a thank you, right? Oh, it's an email now. It's so easy. So few people do it. There's a great way to do it. We all know we can use ChatGPT to help us, but that's going to make you stand out. So you have to send a thank you note. It's respecting the person's time, and it's going to make you stand out. But this follow up and follow through is super important because that's what's going to help you stand out in general. So we're going to come back to this 1% idea because I promise you, most people are not going to do it. And don't be that person, okay? I want all of you to be 100% and think of this exact moment. So I also have some common interview mistakes. Ew, right? Lack of participation, right? If you're kind of like, nervousness, that's number one. Arriving late or too early, it can be like really awkwardly early. Don't do that. Like 15 minutes, okay? 15 minutes on the dot. If you have to wait in your car for an hour, if you have to wait somewhere air conditioning, Walgreens across the street because you took the bus, that's what you need to do, okay? Don't be too early. Don't be weird early. Don't be weird late or disrespectful late. Better to be early than late, but still. Dressing inappropriately. Okay, how many of you do you think I would show up like at an interview like this? Maybe, right? I look professional. I probably wouldn't because I'm an executive level. I wouldn't have my shoulders out. Right? I also am wearing too much perfume that you can't smell right now, but I'm definitely wearing too much perfume. So there's these little things when it comes to appropriateness. Now, most companies in Florida, they'd probably be okay if my shoulders were showing. But if I was going to an interview in New York, no way. No way would I have my shoulders out. So know the job that you're going to be interviewing in and make sure that you dress the part. You always want to put your best foot forward. It doesn't have to be expensive. Everyone in here is super savvy, right? We're fashion students. You guys know how to make something really cool. So next we have talking negatively about another company or anybody else. Say you didn't like a teacher, say you didn't like a person, say you didn't like the last job you have. Do not say that in an interview because it says they don't really know what's appropriate, right? Not listening or interrupting, oversharing personal information. This is a big one. Don't share anything that is unnecessary to the job, right? You don't even need to tell them exactly where you live, things like that. So don't overshare personal information. Don't be too humble or don't be overconfident. You need to find that right spot as you practice your interview. You're also going to forget to ask questions if you do not prepare. So that's another one. Make sure that you have all your questions written out. You also want to really avoid anything that's like inadequate nonverbal communication. What does that mean? Like not being able to express yourself well. Again, that's going to help if you do that practice interview. And then number 10 is, yes, not following up. That's a huge interview mistake. So now you're ready to move forward that you know all about this. Now we're going back to the rules, right? So number 1 was it is a skill landing a job. Number 2 is you need to say yes before you are ready. I can tell that there's people who are very confident and there are people who are unsure of themselves. Throughout your career, you're going to be faced with so many times that you're unsure of yourself, even the most confident people. You have to say yes. You have to apply for the job. You have to put yourself in that situation. You have to raise your hand for that next opportunity, even if you don't feel 100% ready, because you're going to miss 100% of the shots you do not take. So next time when you're like, oh, I don't know if I could do this, just tell yourself, yes, I can do this. And you're going to figure it out. You're just going to Google it, right? Now, that does not mean lie. Please do not lie on your resume. Please do not lie about anything. But I'm just saying, put your hat in the ring, we say. Raise your hand. Give yourself the chance to get a no. It's okay if you get a no. You just have to keep trying to get more yeses if you say yes to yourself. And this goes back to that 1%. Following up, that's part of saying yes before you're ready. You're just making sure that you're putting yourself in these positions over and over and over again, even if they're uncomfortable. All right, number 3, find great leaders. You have really great leaders here at the school. You have amazing professors. When you go out into the workforce, who you work for is as important as what you do. I'm going to say that again. Who you work for is as important as what you actually do. We've all had a teacher or a friend or someone in our life who's really awesome and inspiring, right? I know there's a few here. We've also had people or bosses who are absolutely terrible. You're going to learn from both, because the ones that are terrible will teach you what you don't want to be like. But if you find a teacher who inspires you and you have this other teacher who doesn't, and maybe isn't either excited about the job or talks bad about the job, talks bad about that, or just you don't feel like they're out for you, who are you going to work harder for? Who are you going to learn more from? You're going to show up. You're going to work harder for the person you know wants you to succeed. So finding a boss, when you're interviewing, you're going to interview them too. Say, do I want to be like this person? Do they get me excited? That's as important as what am I going to do? Okay? And one day, if there's any of you who want to be their own boss, anybody want to have their own company, be a consultant of some sort, guess what? You're going to be on the other side of that, right? You're going to be hiring, so you're still going to have to know how these job skills work, right? How to get a job, and you're also going to be the boss. So you want to find good mentors, even if you're going to work for yourself, or people that you can learn from that you're going to emulate and say, like, I want to be like that. All right, the next is always be learning. We're here in school. We're about to graduate, or we already are. We think, all right, my education's done, right? No, we have to be lifelong learners. The learning is just starting. I tell you, your first job out of school, you're like, oh, wait, I think I learned about this, but this is all new. And a lot of the learning is also about people, how to communicate with people. Like I said, sometimes you're gonna have great leaders, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're going to be at a company, you're going to think that this is an amazing company, and you're going to find out what's under the hood, and it's going to be really messy. Even really big companies, I promise you, like, there's improvement. There's places that can be improved, right? So we have this idea that everything's going to be perfect, but it's not. I've worked for huge companies, and they were not perfect. I've had great leaders at those companies. I've had not so great leaders, right? So when you're in these environments, you have to just make sure, am I learning? Always asking yourself, am I learning? It may not look exactly like you thought it was going to look, but you have to be learning. That also means continuing education. We're in a world where you're entering a workforce in a completely new time in the world where we now have access to artificial intelligence that we didn't before. So who's going to get the job? The person who knows more about artificial intelligence is using it, or the person who doesn't? I know in school sometimes there's rules of how you can and can't use it, and that's for good reason, but in the workforce, we're using it. So you have to be able to upskill, and it's changing every day. It's hard for me to stay on top of it. Someone's like, did you hear about this feature? I'm like, oh no, I didn't check 5 minutes ago, it wasn't there. So make sure that you're always learning, okay? We've reached the last one, which is that careers are not linear. And what do I mean by this? All right, so here's a graph of what you think maybe your jobs will look like, right? You're gonna have dots of the time, you have the time span of your career and your position and your payments, right? How much you're gonna make. And we think, all right, we start at the bottom, we know we're gonna have to work hard, and then we're gonna just keep rising, right? Well, probably there's gonna be at least double the dots here. We're gonna have a lot of jobs, okay? So just think, 4 or 5 jobs, probably unlikely in your whole career. But we also have this idea that everything is going to be just straight, right? And we also think that our job is our career. Sometimes we think, what if I don't get this job, I'm not gonna have the career that I want. One job at any time is not a career. Your career is the connectivity between all those jobs. And that can be what you're doing outside to help you get the next job, but it's the continuation of all these dots that create a line. So this is what we're kind of taught that it will look like, right? We've heard the ladder, you've heard climb the corporate ladder, right? We think it's kind of up a little down, up a little down, up a little down, right? This is what we think. It makes sense, right? You're kind of okay, I get it. I'm gonna start here, and then I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna do this, and then that's not what it looks like. This is what it actually looks like. It is a wild ride. You're gonna be getting a job, and then not gonna get that job anymore, or get this job and then hate it, and then quit your job and be I'm gonna take a one-way ticket to India. I did that 3 times because I burnt out so bad that I could not work anymore. I had a really, really crazy career. I went to school for graphic design, even though I wanted to go to school for fashion. I ended up finding my way how to get into the fashion industry as a stylist anyway. I worked for magazines. The magazine industry changed. I had to find something else. Then I worked in jewelry. I worked so many different jobs. I worked for automotive companies. With automotive companies, I produced events. I did so many different things. My career never looked the same. And I can tell you there's so many times where I was scared, even years in my career, where it's I either lost a job, or I wasn't getting a job, or I didn't know what I wanted to do. You might change your career many times. It's totally okay. Careers are not a straight line. And you just have to ride the roller coaster, okay? And sometimes it's happy and you're having a good time. And sometimes you're really, really scared and you are not having fun. And you're how do I get off this ride? When am I gonna get that job? Or I hate this job, how do I find another job? Or there's so many things that you're gonna go through, right? So you just have to learn to ride the roller coaster. Even if you don't like them, find the parts that you do enjoy. So here's all the 5 tips again. Number 1, landing a job takes skill. Number 2, say yes before you are ready. Number 3, find great leaders. Become a great leader too, bonus points. Number 4, always be learning. And number 5, careers are not linear. So I will leave you with this. You will have many jobs, but you will only have one career. So make sure it's one that you're proud of. And now you have the tools. Thank you so much.